Welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at the Marine Corps leadership philosophy
Okay.
as laid out in their doctrine publication, Leading Marines,
All right.
which was updated in 2024.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty dense document.
Uh-huh.
It's got a lot of great stuff in it, though, I think, particularly for military professionals.
Yeah.
So, I think this will be a really good one to dive into.
I think so too. There's a lot of good stuff in it.
Yeah.
And they've added a lot of new stuff to
Mm.
this edition.
Yeah.
They've incorporated a lot of lessons learned
Yeah.
from, the past 20 years of combat.
Yeah.
Which I think is really valuable.
Yeah. I was struck by, how they really do.
Yeah.
They don't just kind of present this as some abstract theory. They really ground it in the reality of what Marines have been facing on the battlefield for the past 2 decades.
And that's one of the things that makes it, I think, so useful
Yeah.
for folks who are, serving in the military.
Yeah.
Because it's not, it's not just a bunch of platitudes, right? It's actually based on, real world experience and lessons learned. And that makes it so much more credible and relevant.
Yeah. So, one of the things that really jumped out to me right off the bat was the way they talk about, what it means to be a Marine.
Okay. Yeah.
And the transformation that recruits undergo.
Yeah.
In boot camp and beyond.
Yeah.
They have this great quote in the beginning from a mother who said, her son came home a man.
Yeah, that's a powerful one.
After boot camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like even the parents, are struck by this dramatic change.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental transformation. Yeah.
They really emphasize that it's not just about learning how to fight.
Yeah.
It's about developing character. It's about instilling values.
Right.
It's about making them better citizens.
Yeah, it's almost like a rebirth.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
It's a crucible that they go through.
Yeah.
And they come out the other side, transformed.
Yeah. And they really hammer home these core values.
They do. Honor, courage, commitment.
Courage.
Commitment.
Yeah. Those are the bedrocks.
And those are not just words, like you said, they permeate.
Exactly. And they really emphasize that.
Yeah.
These aren't just empty slogans.
Yeah.
They're principles that guide everything Marines do.
Right.
From the smallest decisions to the biggest challenges.
Yeah. I think it'd be great if we could just kind of unpack those a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
We all know what they are, but what do they really mean in practice?
Right. So let's start with honor.
Yeah.
It's really about integrity, It's not just about being honest. It's about doing the right thing.
Yeah. Even
when no one's watching, even when it's tough.
Yeah.
It's about holding yourself to the highest standards.
And then courage.
Yeah, courage.
That's a big one, especially in the military, right?
Absolutely. And they make the point that it's not about the absence of fear.
Yeah.
Everyone feels fear. It's about overcoming that fear. It's about acting despite the fear. It's about having the guts to do what needs to be done.
So it's like courage is a choice.
It is a choice. It's a conscious decision.
Yeah.
To face your feels and do what's right.
Yeah.
Even when it's hard.
Okay. And then there's commitment.
Yes, commitment.
That unwavering,
That's it. Unwavering dedication to the Corps.
Yeah.
Your fellow Marines.
Right.
And the mission.
Yeah. It's about staying true to your word.
Exactly. It's about following through on your commitments.
Yeah.
No matter what the cost.
Right.
It's about never giving up.
So these are really the foundations of everything, right?
They are the bedrock. They're the principles that define what it means to be a Marine.
Yeah. And then they move on to this idea of naval character and expeditionary mindset.
Right.
Which I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah.
It might seem a little strange at first.
Yeah.
But they really go back to the roots of the Marine Corps.
Yeah. They talk about how the Marine Corps has been part of the Department of the Navy since 1834.
Yeah.
And, it's not just about wearing the same uniform, right?
Wow.
It's about sharing a common heritage.
Yeah.
It's about having a similar way of thinking.
Yeah. It's about being ready to go anywhere, to deploy, to project force.
Anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
And they highlight some early examples of this, like Captain Samuel Nicholas's raid.
Yeah.
On the Bahamas back in 1776.
Yeah.
And Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon's landing in Tripoli in 1804.
Right. And they tie that directly to, modern day strategic goals.
They do. They talk about how the Marine Corps is all about being ready. To respond to crises, to deter aggression, to project power in a maritime environment.
So it's like a through line, right?
It is. It's a thread that runs through their entire history.
Yeah, from those early amphibious raids, all the way to the modern day,
to the global challenges that we face today.
And then they bring up this concept that every Marine a rifleman.
Okay, yeah.
And I wondered about that, because the Marine Corps has so many specialized roles now.
Right.
You've got pilots, you've got cyber specialists, you've got logisticians, you've got all these different folks.
Absolutely.
So I wasn't sure if that still really applied, in the 21st century.
Right. Yeah, that's a common misconception.
Yeah.
But they're adamant that it's still a core principle.
Really?
Yeah. Every Marine, regardless of their MOS, receives that foundational infantry training.
So they all go through that same basic rifleman training.
They do. It's part of their identity. It's what makes them Marines.
And it's not just about, knowing how to shoot a rifle.
No, it's much more than that. It's about that warrior ethos.
Right.
It's about being ready to fight.
Yeah.
No matter what the circumstances.
And they really highlight this. Yeah. They highlight this in some really powerful stories from history.
Yeah.
One that really stands out is the story of Captain Henry Hank Elrod on Wake Island during World War II.
Yeah.
He was the fighter pilot.
He was, yep.
But when all the planes were destroyed, he picked up a rifle and led ground troops.
Yeah.
And
he did it effectively. He was a true warrior.
He was a Marine.
Yeah.
And then they connect this to a present day example.
Yeah.
During the 2012 attack on Camp Bastion.
Yeah.
Marines from Elrod's old squadron.
VMA 211.
Yeah, VMA 211. They found themselves fighting as riflemen.
They did. They had to pick up their rifles and defend the base.
So it really shows you how this concept is kind of woven into their DNA.
Right. Absolutely. It's part of their heritage. It's part of who they are.
Yeah. And it prepares them for any situation.
Exactly. They never know when they might have to fall back on those basic skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got that adaptability piece, but beyond just the skills, I think there's also that strong sense of loyalty,
right?
That the Marines have,
yep.
that faithfulness to nation core and each other.
Yeah, that's central to their identity.
Yeah.
And the manual is it's chock full of stories.
Yeah.
That illustrate this.
Yeah.
Each one more powerful than the last.
Yeah. I mean, one that really stood out to me was First Sergeant Bradley Casal.
Yeah.
In Fallujah.
Mm-hmm.
He was severely wounded.
He was.
But he continued to shield a fellow Marine.
Yeah.
With his own body.
With his own body.
Even as he was being evacuated, he was urging his commander, to take care of his Marines.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Like a level of selflessness that's hard to even comprehend.
It really shows the strength of that bond.
It does. That bond between Marines is unbreakable.
Yeah.
They're willing to sacrifice everything for each other.
Yeah. And it's not limited to combat situations, right?
Right.
They also tell the story of Sergeants Austin Cox and Michael Vera,
right?
Who were off-duty Marines.
Yeah.
Who ran toward the gunfire.
Yeah.
During the Las Vegas shooting.
Yeah. They didn't hesitate.
Yeah.
They just ran right into the danger.
Sergeant Vera is quoted as saying, my purpose that day was to help others.
Powerful words.
Yeah.
It just shows you that those values, they extend beyond the battlefield.
Right.
They're part of who they are as human beings.
So it's about character, not just training.
Absolutely. It's about being a good person.
Right.
It's about living up to those values.
Yeah. And then I think that kind of brings us to another element that is really unique to the Marine Corps, and that's their traditions.
Okay, yeah.
The manual spends a lot of time talking about about these traditions.
Yeah. They talk about the use of naval terminology.
Right.
The annual birthday celebration, the Marines' hymn.
Yeah. The pride they take in their uniforms.
Yeah. They even share an anecdote about General Smith.
Yeah.
At the Chosin Reservoir during the Korean War.
Right.
You know, he was feeling really overwhelmed by the situation.
Yeah. They were facing overwhelming odds. It was a desperate situation.
And then he heard the Marines singing the Marines' hymn.
Yeah.
And he knew that they would prevail.
It was a sign of their resilience, their spirit.
Yeah. It's amazing how these, seemingly small things can have such a huge impact on morale and unity.
They do. They're powerful symbols.
Yeah.
They represent something larger than themselves.
Yeah. Especially during those moments of extreme hardship,
Absolutely. When things are tough, those traditions can be a source of strength.
Yeah. Speaking of uniforms, there's this great story about a Marine corporal in an airport.
And somebody compliments him on his impeccable dress blues, you know. And he just replies, "The Marines don't do that."
I love that.
And it's that,
It's understated pride.
Yeah.
They don't brag about it. They just do it.
They just live it.
They live it. It's part of who they are.
Yeah. And before we move on, I did want to touch on the story of Captain Vernice Armour.
Okay, yeah.
The first African-American female combat pilot.
Right.
It's another example of how, the Marine Corps has this history of really inspiring individuals who exemplify those values.
Yeah, they talk about how she wanted to be the best pilot she could be.
Yeah.
Not for recognition, but to protect the Marines on the ground.
Right.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Exploring what it means to be a Marine, but what does it take to lead Marines?
Right.
That's where the real meat of this deep dive is. And we're going to tackle that next.
We are. Chapter 2, Foundations of Leadership.
Oh, okay.
It starts off with this quote from a 1920 Marine Corps order that, kind of sets the tone. It says, Marines don't just blindly follow orders.
Right.
They respond to qualities of leadership.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty crucial distinction, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
It speaks to the idea that, leadership is earned, not just given. Yeah. And the manual really goes into, the principles and practices that define effective leadership within the Corps. Okay. One of the key takeaways, I think, from this chapter is this emphasis on the well-being of Marines. Yeah. It's not just about mission accomplishment. Right. It's about taking care of your people. Yeah. And they even give this really practical example that highlights this. Junior Marines eat first.
Okay.
Followed by NCOs. Yeah. Then staff NCOs.
Right.
And finally the officers.
Yeah. So it's like it's kind of a pecking order, but
it is. But it's a pecking order that puts the most junior Marines first. Yeah. It's a way of demonstrating that that the leaders are there to serve their Marines, not the other way around.
Yeah. So it's a really simple thing.
It is.
But it makes a big statement.
It does. It sends a powerful message.
Yeah. But how does that translate into, I guess, like the actual act of leading?
Okay, yeah. So they break down Marine leadership into two core components. Yeah. Character. Okay. Which stems from those core values that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, honor, courage, commitment.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the application of specific leadership traits and principles.
Okay, so they're giving you like a framework, like a set of tools.
They are. They're giving you a roadmap for effective leadership. Okay. So they list 15 leadership traits.
Oh, wow.
15. 15, they use this mnemonic to help you remember them.
Okay.
JJ did Ty Buckley. Yeah. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I found that a little much to keep track of.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
But, I think the real point here is to focus on how these traits manifest. Yeah. In real life situations.
Right. So it's not just about memorizing a list.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's about understanding how those qualities translate into action.
Yeah. Okay, so give me an example.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's take justice, for example.
Yeah.
It's about being fair and impartial, treating your Marines with equity. That builds trust and respect,
Yeah.
which are essential for any effective leader.
Yeah, for sure. And then how about initiative?
Yeah, initiative.
That's a big one, right?
It's a big one.
Especially in the military, where things are constantly changing.
Absolutely. You got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to think on your feet.
Yeah.
And the manual highlights how initiative was crucial in situations like, the clearing of the Safar Bazaar in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Where Marines were facing these unexpected challenges.
Yeah.
And they had to think on their feet.
Right.
To overcome them.
Yeah.
They were dealing with really complex terrain, a determined enemy,
right?
And they had to be able to adapt, and improvise.
Right. So you've got to be able to make decisions and act decisively.
You do, when the situation demands it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that kind of leads us to the 11 leadership principles,
right?
That are outlined in the manual.
Yeah.
These things cover everything from self-improvement and technical proficiency to knowing your Marines and taking responsibility for your actions.
Yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive list.
Okay.
And again, I think the manual really emphasizes, focusing on a few of these principles and finding engaging examples.
Okay. Yeah, give me some examples.
Sure. For instance, under Know Your Marines and Look Out for Their Welfare, they revisit the example of putting junior Marines first for meals.
Right.
And then set the example.
Okay.
They share a really inspiring story about First Lieutenant William D. Hawkins on Tarawa during World War II.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So Hawkins was leading his men ashore under intense enemy fire. He was the first one off the landing craft.
Wow.
Fearlessly urging his Marines forward.
Okay.
Despite being mortally wounded.
Oh, wow.
His courage inspired his men to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And they ultimately secured the beachhead.
Wow. So he basically gave his life.
He did. Yeah. So that his men could succeed.
I mean, talk about leading by example.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a powerful illustration.
Yeah.
Of how a leader's actions can have a ripple effect, influencing the bravery and commitment of those they lead.
Yeah. But it's not just about the leaders setting the example. Yeah. It's also about the followers being equally dedicated to those standards. Right,
exactly. And they introduce this concept of taking charge.
Taking charge.
Yeah, highlighting how the lines between leader and follower can blur, especially in the heat of combat.
Yeah, that makes sense. Give me an example of that.
Sure. They share the story of Corporal James Barrett in Vietnam.
Okay.
When his platoon commander was killed, Barrett took command.
Oh, wow.
Led a counterattack, repelling the enemy assault.
Wow. Talk about stepping up.
Yeah. When the moment demanded it.
Yeah. So it's incredible how individuals can rise to the occasion.
It is. It's a testament to their training.
Yeah.
To their discipline.
Yeah.
To their character.
Yeah. And then that kind of, I guess that ties into this whole concept of physical courage.
Okay.
Which the manual defines as mastering fear.
Right. It's not about being fearless.
Yeah.
It's about overcoming that fear.
Yeah. Having
the mental fortitude to act despite the danger.
Yeah, and they share some really gripping stories that really illustrate this.
They do.
One that stands out to me is First Lieutenant Rebecca Turpin's experience.
Okay.
Leading a convoy in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
They were hit by IEDs.
Yeah.
Attacked with RPGs.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But she remained calm.
She did.
Coordinated air support, got her convoy to safety.
Yeah. It's a testament to her courage.
Yeah.
To her leadership.
Right.
To her ability to think clearly.
Yeah.
Under pressure.
And it's not just about surviving those intense moments.
Right.
It's also about the the split-second decisions.
Yeah.
The acts of selflessness that often accompany them.
Right.
They tell the story of Lance Corporals, Kyle Carpenter, and Nicholas Eufrazio, who were manning an observation post when a grenade was thrown at them.
Right.
And Carpenter instinctively shielded Eufrazio with his own body.
With his own body.
Absorbing the blast.
Yeah.
He was severely wounded.
He was.
But he saved Eufrazio's life.
He did.
It's an incredible story of putting the well-being of another before your own safety.
It's the epitome of self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
And for his actions, Carpenter received the Medal of Honor.
Right.
A testament to his extraordinary courage and sacrifice.
Yeah, but these acts of physical courage aren't limited to the battlefield, right?
Right.
They also highlight Staff Sergeant Barbara Barnwell.
Okay.
The first woman to receive the Navy and Marine Corps Medal.
Oh, wow.
During peacetime, she saved a drowning Marine.
Oh, wow.
Battling a strong current for 20 minutes.
Wow.
To bring him to safety.
So it just shows you that, courage can manifest itself in many ways. And that Marines are trained to respond to challenges. Yeah. Whether they're facing enemy fire or, the forces of nature.
Yeah. So we've talked about physical courage. But the manual also dives into this idea of moral courage.
Okay. Yeah.
What sets that apart?
So moral courage is about doing the right thing, even when it's unpopular.
Yeah. Even
when it could have negative consequences for you personally.
Right.
It's about standing up for what you believe in, even when it's difficult.
Right.
And the manual presents a hypothetical scenario to kind of illustrate this.
Yeah.
Imagine you're a Marine in Iraq, and after an IED attack, it seems like the owner of a nearby shop might be involved.
Right.
But there's also a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Jumping to conclusions could have serious repercussions.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to accuse somebody.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wrongfully.
Yeah.
And so it's this really thought-provoking scenario that forces you to, kind of grapple with the complexities of moral decision making in a combat zone.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to weigh the potential risks against the need to uphold your values.
Yeah.
And to ensure that justice is served.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is. It's a tough call. And then they give some real-world examples of moral courage in action.
Okay.
One that stands out is Lieutenant Colonel Gerald Turley's decision in Vietnam to order the destruction of a bridge.
Okay.
Even though he was repeatedly denied permission.
Wow.
He knew that it was the right call. To prevent enemy troops from advancing. Yeah. And he was willing to accept the consequences.
So he put the mission and the lives of his Marines above his own career aspirations.
He did. He put the mission first.
Yeah.
And they balanced that with a story of moral courage.
Okay.
In peacetime.
Yeah.
Lance Corporal Dakota Scannendor saving a suicidal Marine.
Wow.
In Japan.
Okay. Tell me about that. What happened?
So he saw a social media post where a Marine was expressing, suicidal thoughts.
Okay.
And Scannendor didn't hesitate.
Wow.
He tracked down the Marine.
Okay.
And physically intervened.
Okay.
Prevented him from jumping off a building.
Wow. So he saved that Marine's life.
He did. He was a true hero.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that, moral courage isn't just about battlefield decisions.
Right.
It's about taking action to help others.
Right.
Even in everyday life.
Yeah. And these stories really highlight, I think, the range of challenges
they do
that Marines face.
Yeah.
And the different forms of courage that are required to overcome them.
Exactly. And the manual goes even deeper.
Oh, okay.
Exploring the external and internal obstacles that leaders must navigate.
Okay.
Chapter 3, Overcoming Challenges.
Okay.
Really gets into the nitty-gritty of leadership, in the real world,
Right.
where things rarely go according to plan.
Of course, yeah.
And they start by talking about friction.
Okay. Not the kind you get from rubbing your hands together, though, right?
Right. Not that kind of friction.
Got it.
They're using it more in the way that Karl von Clausewitz defined it.
Okay.
All those things that make the simple difficult in war.
Uh-huh.
So think, bad weather, misinformation, enemy action.
Yeah.
Even your own exhaustion. All of that contributes to friction.
Yeah.
And friction wears you down, both individually and as a unit.
Yeah, it's like the constant pressure.
It is.
Those unexpected obstacles that always seem to pop up.
Yeah. And they tie this into the fog of war.
Right.
That feeling of confusion.
Yeah.
And uncertainty.
Yeah.
That can make even the simplest decisions feel impossible.
Right.
And they quote General Mattis in here, who said that the fog of war is not a meteorological phenomenon.
Okay.
It is the uncertainty of being in combat.
Right. Yeah. So how do you lead effectively when you're constantly battling that friction, that uncertainty?
Well, the manual really emphasizes the importance of preparation.
Okay.
Planning, training, rehearsals. All of that is crucial for reducing friction's impact. And they even highlight this really interesting example, Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Malay's approach to training his battalion before their deployment to Iraq.
Okay, what did he do?
He partnered with a movie studio.
A movie studio, yeah.
To create these incredibly realistic training scenarios.
Okay.
They had role players, special effects.
Wow.
Even amputees with blood packs.
Wow. That's taking realism to a whole other level.
It was designed to be as immersive and stressful as possible to really prepare his Marines for the chaos of combat.
And did it work?
By all counts, it did.
It's okay.
His battalion performed exceptionally well during their operations in Fallujah.
Okay.
It's a testament to that idea that the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle.
Yeah, for sure. Preparation is key.
It is.
But even the best laid plans can go awry. The manual also talks about moral challenges.
Yes.
Those moments where your values are put to the test.
Right.
Those can be even tougher, I think, than physical challenges, right?
They can be, yeah. They often require that moral courage we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Doing the right thing, even when it's unpopular.
Right.
Even when it could put you at risk.
Yeah. And these moral challenges aren't just theoretical, are they? I mean, they have real-world consequences.
Oh, absolutely. They talk about this concept of moral ascendancy, which is essentially the trust and respect that subordinates have for their leaders.
Right.
When Marines believe that their leaders are acting with integrity and that they're fighting for a just cause, they're much more likely to follow them, even in the most difficult circumstances.
So moral leadership isn't just about, making the right decision.
Right.
It's also about inspiring your Marines. Showing them that you're worthy of their trust.
Absolutely. And the manual really drives home this point that moral courage is essential for building and maintaining that moral ascendancy.
Okay.
And they use the example of Lieutenant Colonel Gerald Turley,
who
made that difficult decision to destroy a bridge in Vietnam, even though he was denied permission multiple times.
Right.
He knew it was the right call. To protect his Marines and prevent the enemy from advancing. And he was willing to accept the consequences.
Talk about guts. I mean,
it does.
To go against the grain and do what you believe is right, even when it could cost you your career.
Yeah, and it's a powerful example of how moral courage can have that ripple effect, inspiring others to act with integrity, even in the face of pressure or adversity.
So we've got friction, we've got moral challenges. What other obstacles do Marine leaders need to overcome?
Well, there are the physical challenges, which, as you might imagine, encompasses a lot more than just being, physically fit.
Right.
The manual talks about, the impact of sleep deprivation, extreme weather conditions, the mental and emotional strain of combat.
Of course,
All of that takes a toll, both physically and mentally.
Yeah. It's that constant grind, that that relentless pressure that can just wear you down over time.
And they highlight Captain John Ripley's actions at the Dong Ha Bridge during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
You know, he spent hours suspended beneath this bridge.
Wow.
Placing explosives while under enemy fire.
Yeah.
It was just an incredible feat of endurance, both physical and mental.
For sure.
And they contrast that with a more recent example.
Right.
First Lieutenant Kenneth Conover leading his platoon. Yeah.
Through 6 straight days.
Wow.
Of intense combat in Afghanistan.
Wow. 6 straight days.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
You know, it really highlights that importance of resilience.
Yeah.
That ability to push through fatigue, stress, hardship to accomplish the mission.
And that resilience, I guess, that goes hand in hand with adaptability.
It does.
And innovation, right.
Right.
I mean, the Marine Corps has this long history of thinking outside the box, of finding these creative solutions to overcome challenges.
Right.
What are some examples of that Marine ingenuity?
Well, one of the most striking examples, I think, comes from the early days of Marine aviation.
Okay.
First Lieutenant Christian Schilt was evacuating wounded Marines from this tiny makeshift airstrip in Nicaragua.
Okay.
And he didn't have enough room to take off.
Oh, wow.
With all the casualties.
Right.
So he improvised.
What did he do? He strapped them to the wings of his biplane.
He strapped them to the wings.
Yeah.
Talk about a willingness to push the limits.
He was determined to get those Marines out of there, no matter what.
Wow. And then, of course, you have the Navajo code talkers in World War II.
Right. And they're using their native language to create a code that the enemy couldn't break.
Right. And that was such a brilliant example of turning, I guess, like a perceived weakness into a tactical advantage.
It was really ingenious.
Yeah.
But innovation isn't always about, those grand gestures. Sometimes it's about, finding practical solutions to everyday problems.
Yeah.
During Desert Shield, the Marine Corps faced a shortage of transportation.
Okay.
So they leased civilian circus trucks.
Circus trucks.
Yeah, to haul equipment and supplies.
Okay.
It wasn't glamorous.
Right.
But it got the job done.
Right. Yeah. Whatever works.
And then there was Team Lion.
Okay. Where female Marines were trained to conduct searches of Iraqi women.
Okay.
Due to, cultural sensitivities.
Right.
It was a recognition that, understanding the cultural landscape is crucial for mission success.
Right. Yeah. So adaptability comes in many forms.
It does.
Speaking of adaptability at that small unit level, the manual shares this story of Marines clearing the Safar Bazaar in Afghanistan.
Okay.
They encountered this new type of IED, non-metallic ones that their standard metal detectors couldn't find.
Oh, right. Couldn't pick them up.
So they had to come up with some new tactics, right?
They did. They started using water hoses to soften the soil. And then they would use these holly sticks.
Holly sticks.
Yeah, they're these long sticks with hooks on the end.
Okay.
To probe for,
Why?
wires, pressure plates.
Okay.
And if they couldn't safely remove the IED,
they would secure the area.
Okay.
And detonate it with line charges.
Wow. So it was slow, painstaking work.
It was very dangerous work.
Yeah.
But they eventually cleared the bazaar.
I mean, it's a testament to their resourcefulness.
It is.
Their ability to adapt and overcome.
Right.
Even when faced with those unexpected challenges.
And that spirit of innovation is a recurring theme, I think, throughout Marine Corps history.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you think about the development of amphibious doctrine, the Small Wars Manual, technologies like dive bombing, night bombing.
Yep.
Even maritime prepositioning.
Right.
I mean, it all speaks to this constant drive to evolve, to adapt.
Baked into their DNA.
Yeah. It's impressive how they've been at the forefront of so many military advancements.
They have. Yeah. And a lot of that innovation stems from their emphasis on decentralization, empowering, subordinate leaders to make decisions and act independently.
Right.
They illustrate this with this classic anecdote about a group of lieutenants who are tasked with erecting a 75-foot flagpole, and those who get bogged down in the technical details. They fail.
Okay.
The solution.
Yeah.
Tell the sergeant in charge, put up that flagpole.
Right. Just get it done.
Yeah.
So it's a humorous example.
It is. It's a funny story.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a very insightful one.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it shows you how, trusting your subordinates and giving them the authority to act can be far more effective than micromanaging.
Yeah. You got to empower your people to get things done.
To trust them to do their jobs.
Yeah. And the Marine Corps has a long tradition of this, of decentralization, right? Yeah.
They do. Going back to small units operating in places like China,
right,
Haiti, Nicaragua. It's part of their DNA.
And that decentralized approach has been key, I think, to their success in modern conflicts as well.
I agree.
Think about the Combined Action Program in Vietnam.
Yeah.
More recent advisory teams in Iraq and Afghanistan, all relying on these small, highly trained units, operating with a great deal of autonomy.
And that's essential in the kind of chaotic, fast-paced world of modern warfare.
Yeah, for sure.
You need leaders at all levels who can make decisions and act decisively.
Yeah, and for those leaders to be effective, they need to be resilient.
They do.
Both individually and as a unit.
Absolutely. And resilience is more than just toughness.
Right.
It's about the ability to bounce back from adversity.
To learn from your mistakes and come back stronger.
Right.
The manual breaks it down into 4 areas of Marine fitness.
Okay.
Physical, mental, and social.
Right. So it's kind of this holistic approach.
It is.
Yeah.
To developing, well-rounded Marines who can thrive under pressure.
And they quote a great T-shirt slogan in here.
Okay.
The more we train in peacetime, the less we bleed in war.
That's a good one.
I love that. It really emphasizes, I think, the importance of preparation.
It does.
Of building that resilience before you're tested in the crucible of combat.
Right.
And finally, the manual wraps up this discussion of overcoming challenges by emphasizing the importance of trust and failure.
Right.
They argue that a zero defects mentality actually hinders innovation and growth.
It does. It does.
It creates a culture of fear.
Where people are afraid to take risks or make mistakes.
Yeah. You can't expect people to be innovative or to take initiative if they're constantly worried about being punished for every misstep.
Yeah. You've got to give them the space to fail and to learn from those failures.
Yeah. The manual highlights a quote from Lieutenant General Krulak, who said, "I want my leaders to be audacious, to be innovative, and if they fail, I want them to fail quickly, cheaply, and forward.
Okay.
So we can learn from those failures and move on."
Right. So it's about creating a command climate.
Yeah.
Where learning and growth are valued.
Right.
More than just avoiding failure at all costs.
Right. And that requires trust.
Yeah.
Trust between leaders and subordinates. Trust among peers.
Yeah.
Without that trust, you can't have
true innovation or initiative.
Yeah, and it goes back to that, I guess, that idea of moral ascendancy.
It does.
When Marines trust their leaders, they're more willing to take risks.
They are.
To step outside their comfort zones, to push the boundaries of what's possible.
That's what allows them to achieve those extraordinary things.
Yeah, that's ultimately what drives the Marine Corps' success, right?
I think so.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into lighting Marines, what are some key takeaways?
Okay.
For our listeners, what should they be thinking about as they lead their own Marines?
I think the biggest takeaway is that leadership within the Marine Corps, it's about more than just giving orders or following a set of rules. It's about character. It's about values. It's about understanding and connecting with your Marines.
It's about fostering a culture of trust, of initiative, of resilience, and it's about, constantly seeking ways to learn, to grow, and to adapt.
I think you've really hit the nail on the head there.
Well, thank you.
This has been an incredibly insightful exploration of the principles and practices that shape Marine Corps leadership.
Right.
But I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Yes.
A question to ponder.
Okay.
As they reflect on what we've discussed today.
Sure.
Thinking back on your own experiences, both successes and setbacks.
Yeah.
What is one concrete action you can take
Okay.
to build greater trust
Yeah.
within your team?
Okay.
And foster a climate that encourages initiative,
Right.
even in the face of potential mistakes?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And remember, this deep dive is just the beginning.
Right.
Keep exploring, keep learning,
Yeah.
and keep leading.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.